Okay, so welcome to the Double R podcast. My name is Reese Russell, and we're going to be discussing a topic today that is actually, as you all know, one of my favorites, Bitcoin. So today's big question was, why don't you own Bitcoin? I started this as a question on Facebook to my followers and friends as to why don't you own any Bitcoin? I'm not talking like all the Bitcoin or everything you own in Bitcoin. Why do you have a zero allocation to Bitcoin? And my thought was that it was more of a moral thing, a principle, or some other reason why they don't own it that is just out of basically their beliefs. They don't believe in it. And the answers I got were wildly different, though some people did allude to the fact they don't believe in it. I'm hoping to have a rebuttal to some of the best questions I saw, or best reasons they don't own Bitcoin. So let's start. Use as an income. So Bobby says, I'll die before it's a main form of income. 3 likes on this one. The use of Bitcoin as income is only limited to those that will accept it and those that will basically pay you in Bitcoin. Bitcoin is easily convertible to dollars, so taking it as income is really not a big issue. You can take Bitcoin fairly easily. I did it just the other day. I helped a guy move. He pays me in Bitcoin, goes to my wallet. Employers don't want to pay in Bitcoin because they're afraid of it. Taxes. That's valid. That's a valid thing. You're a business, and a business always at all costs wants to avoid an audit. And if you say that you're paying people in Bitcoin on 1099s, that could be a big red flag for your business at why are you doing it. But getting paid in Bitcoin is probably much closer on the horizon than you could ever believe. This quote says, I'll die before its main form of income. I hope you live a long, healthy life, Bobby, and that's very good. But I don't think you'll die before it's a main form of income for some people that are willing to accept it. For example, right now, Okung, Tom Brady, a lot of professional athletes are taking their endorsements in Bitcoin now. And that's really interesting that they're choosing to do this. And it's on moral principle for most of these people that they want to build wealth generationally. They know, especially Tom Brady, he's been a big inflation hawk for a long time, that if you save in dollars, you can get your $1 million contract, $8 million contract. But long term, if you try to store that money in dollars, it will depreciate over time. That $8 million 50 years from now will maybe feel more like 3 or 2 million. So these football players are kind of some of the first to realize that they have a lot of power, influence on what they do, and they just want to help grow what they're earning through that power and influence and skill. And so they're basically saying, pay me in Bitcoin. I want real hard money. Everybody knows about inflation, and the wealthier you become, the more noticeable inflation is, because it is the tax that eats away at your wealth. The other thing is Bitcoin is easily convertible into dollars and avoids many of the issues associated with traditional banking. Like if you get paid on any day that isn't Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, so 4 days out of the 7-day week, you're going to have to wait for that money to clear through a bank. And that very likely means it will show up Monday. Common thing I've been experiencing is ACH transfers on Saturday. So if my paycheck arrives on the 5th and the 5th is on a Saturday, I'll have to wait till Monday for that money to show up and be usable in my account, because ACHs cannot clear on weekends or the other situation, federal holidays. All these things are just bureaucratic and, in general, in my own opinion, unnecessary. And Bitcoin proves that these things are unnecessary. Banks don't need to close on weekends. We have money that is open 24/7. The other thing is delays. There shouldn't be a delay when you send people money. It shouldn't have to be withheld. It should just move point A to point B. You don't need the intermediary. And that's what Bitcoin does. So there's no delay to getting paid. So if you are doing, for example, a moving business, and you help somebody move, they can pay you that day and you'll have money that day, even if it's on a Saturday. They just use their mobile phones. That's one of the coolest things about Bitcoin is it moves money instantly. So if you're taking a lot of transaction in for your business, you can do that very effectively with Bitcoin because you can close every transaction that day or even 10 minutes, and in some cases, if you want to use the Lightning Network, instantaneously close transactions out with people. That is the power of Bitcoin right there. It's no steps, no intermediaries. It works 24/7, and I believe businesses will adopt it much more so as inflation takes hold in the United States, around the world, because Bitcoin does counteract inflation. So overall, Bitcoin is income. I would take Bitcoin as payment. Like if you could pay me in Bitcoin, I would take it right now. I'd take a year's salary in Bitcoin. But my employer's not going to do that right now. I don't live in Silicon Valley. Unfortunately, I'm not a football player. But I would take that money like in Bitcoin instead of cash. That way I can avoid paying fees to buy the Bitcoin that I always convert my cash to anyways. And secondly, I can own Bitcoin. I know my employer, when he gives me Bitcoin, he had to obtain that Bitcoin. I'm getting a share of my 21 million Bitcoins with that. I do not have to take that intermediary step of getting dollars and then going to Bitcoin. I can just have it be doled out to my wallet on my pay schedule. The next argument is gold and silver. Are gold and silver better than Bitcoin? I would say not, but Ben here says, because gold and silver can be used and cashed out anywhere, and I can hold it. Well, Ben, on the last one, you can hold it. Absolutely. You cannot hold Bitcoin. You know deep down you own it. You know that address has your Bitcoin in it. But no, you can never physically touch your Bitcoin. But to have the advantages Bitcoin has over gold and silver, you can't be able to touch it because of the fact that it represents something, but it is not something. It's not a physical item. It represents something. It's uncheatable, uncounterfeitable money. But at the same time, to make it uncheatable, uncounterfeitable, unprintable, you have to have that inability to create copies of it. Gold can be dug out of the ground and copies made of coins. So in terms of that, yeah, you can't hold it. But let's go into the first part of that question. Because gold and silver can be used and cashed out anywhere. I will say gold and silver cannot be cashed out anywhere. That's one of the big things. You really can only cash it out at bullion dealers, and you can cash out at coin shops. And if you have a friend, potentially, you can do goods and services for silver rounds or barter with it. But the issue arises in the premiums and spreads you have to buy and sell gold and silver at. It doesn't work on any short-term medium of exchange because of the fact that buying from the dealer, they mark it up, and selling to the dealer, they mark it down. So if you want to buy an ounce of gold, let's say gold is $2,000 an ounce today, that ounce of gold will sell for $2,050, and he will buy at $1950. So that's how the coin shop will make money. When you're trading in, he gives you less than spot, and when you buy, you pay more than spot. That is the premium you pay to obtain physical coins, bars, coins, whatever form it comes in. But gold and silver also suffer a number of issues that Bitcoin resolves. Scarcity being the absolute number one issue gold has. First of all, nobody knows how much gold is out there. The estimate is that all the gold in the world is mined once over about every 30 to 50 years because the inflation rate of gold rests around 2 to 3%, possibly 5%, but that is very unlikely. As technology gets better, excavators, different gold mining processes that are now automated through machines, these things help make gold mining and gold digging easier. You just have to expend energy to get it. And I'll use that as a keyword, expend energy. Bitcoin, on the other hand, does not have a unlimited supply. There will only be 21 million of these tokens ever made. That's it. There's no more than 21 million ever. You can throw as much money, as much energy, as much anything you want in mining, and the Bitcoin network will still only spit out that many Bitcoins in its lifetime. It is pre-programmed that by 2100, there will be 21.9 million Bitcoins in existence. That is it. If the Bitcoins are lost, they are gone. The issue with scarcity in gold especially, not so much Bitcoin, is that if you store your wealth in gold and as a gold bug, you hit that day where the price has tripled to an extremely high number, or fear sets in and people start buying gold very fast, and the demand is very high, driving the price up. you'll start seeing many people go to rivers, anywhere they can find gold, dig it out of the ground, and they'll start digging it out of the ground. So the nominal gold inflation is 3%, but under these gold rushes, as you might call them, the inflation may jump to 5, 8, 10%. The issue with that then becomes, as people are digging this gold up, they're selling it for dollars. They're not using it for trade. They're actually putting it right back into basically the gold market and selling it to make money while the price is high. They want that payday in dollars. So the gold scarcity argument doesn't work well at all, because Bitcoin, no matter what, if you go to the end of time, there still will only be 21.9 million. Gold, there are basically billions of ounces out there. It's not hard to find an ounce of gold. You can pay for it for around $2,000 right now, but it's still readily available for pretty much anybody. Bitcoin, on the other hand, there are not as many people offering it, and they do want higher prices. A unit of Bitcoin right now is $30,000, peaking at $65,000. So in terms of scarcity, the last thing is that just as a personal note, I've noticed a lot more people carrying around gold chains, necklaces, jewelry, watches, that kind of stuff, than I've seen Bitcoin wallets with any reasonable amount of Bitcoin. Bitcoin is harder to get. It is harder money. The next thing is transportation. Gold, transporting it, it's just a pain in the butt. You have to physically drive it somewhere or move it. It's prone to being taken. I mean, throughout history, gold has been taken and pillaged from nations. Every time a nation loses a war, they take the gold. That's just what happens. People have been killed over gold. Gold incites violence. It's just whatever. Gold's been around. People have been trying to take gold. Securing gold, again, like I just said, the gold incites violence, and really, you got to be very protective of gold because it's very easy to recognize, steal, and it's not complicated to take from somebody. All you got to do is figure out how to get the yellow rock from him or her. So taking gold is a big issue, and securing gold is not terribly difficult. Like, it's much easier to secure gold than it is to secure like other items that are much larger, because gold still is very small, heavy, and typically most people will hide it in a safety deposit box, their house, a safe, sock drawer, wherever. But still, you physically have that. With Bitcoin, you just have to find a clever way to memorize a password. Divisibility. Gold is divided by cutting, assaying, morphing the gold, clipping it potentially, even with like scissors or some sort of snipping tool. You can divide gold up, but it's imprecise, and you really can't do it well quickly because of the fact that you have to weigh it. You have to, okay, how much of this bar am I going to give to you for this much? You'll maybe have some other coins you can use, but if you run out of those coins, then it really doesn't work well as money. And society has moved to notes and like actual dollars and paper because it's much easier to divide up. You can create 1, 5, 10, 100 units that are different versus gold, which you just have bars. Bitcoin, you can just divide instantly into one Bitcoin can go into 100 million pieces. Basically, one Satoshi, which is the smallest unit of Bitcoin, the 1/100 millionth of a Bitcoin, right now is worth about 0.0037 cents. So you can, with a very high level of granularity, you can divide up your Bitcoin to spend and send to other people. It works really good. And on the last note, so this goes into the end of times scenario that a lot of gold bugs really go for. Like, that is their thing. The end of times, economy's collapsed, things aren't working. They say for Bitcoin, you won't have electricity in the end of times. You might not have electricity, but if you have gold and silver, you're going to waste that very quickly on that roast beef sandwich. You will be hungry, starving. You will need water. You will need food. You'll need anything to survive. And if somebody knows that you have a 1 ounce gold coin and you need a sandwich, your family needs a sandwich, they're going to take that coin from you. They're going to say, this roast beef sandwich is your entire savings. They will just take it all. You need the sandwich to survive. You cannot eat your bar of gold. Bitcoin may be worthless, but to me, gold will also be worthless in the end of time. Bitcoin is built to hedge inflation. Gold is also being used to hedge inflation. It is not working. I guess on one more note, sorry, to go even deeper, the United States has printed more money than ever in the past year, to the tune of roughly $6 trillion. Gold has flatlined in price. It hasn't done anything over the year. How did gold not hedge the biggest inflationary event we will see in our lifetimes? That's my question. Why did gold sit there and do nothing for 1 year during the most money printing, reckless fiscal policy the United States has ever implemented? It hands down in history. It doesn't make sense, but it's okay. That's what you work with. As an investor, you got to work with things that don't make sense. So, gold and silver, I think they're better for making chains, watches, and certain niche scenarios. I'm not going to bet on those scenarios. I don't want those scenarios to happen. If they do happen, there is gold available, but it's not, I wouldn't put all my eggs in a gold and silver basket because of the fact that it's the event that it moons or goes up in price. People are buying it because they want to see it go up in price most of the time, not because they anticipate to use it. Bitcoin does that better. It does. Bitcoin goes up in price more often than gold. It's harder to find than gold. It's easier to transport than gold. It's better. It's easier to secure. And the divisibility is just so much better than gold. And what else? I guess I could do one last topic here. That will be that if you have a savings, okay, think of it like a boat and you have an ocean to cross. If you save in dollars, you're trying to cross that large ocean. The ocean represents 100 years. You're trying to cross that ocean in a paper mache boat. It's going to dissolve. It's going to be worth nothing. There's nothing going to be left. Gold is like having a wooden ship. You're very likely to make it, but at the same time, there are going to be many problems. You're very prone to sinking the ship. You're very prone to getting sick because it doesn't go fast. Your crewmates may die, scurvy, running out of food, etc. It is a big ocean out there. You need the best possible asset. Gold is a wooden boat. Bitcoin is an absolute steel frigate. It will make it to the other side with strength, power, and do well. There will still be the same properties. Bitcoin will be exactly the same 100 years from now as it was today. It cannot be changed. It's immutable. So, in the analogy, gold and silver do well. It's better than holding cash. But in my opinion, Bitcoin smokes gold and silver in every aspect, again, other than chains, watches, and jewelry. So, Bitcoin is a scam. Tim says, other than your posts, I've never heard of Bitcoin. Is this a real thing or something a group of people are overhyping in hopes of an escalation in value and so return on their investments? So this question or statement here. Thank you, Tim. I appreciate it. I'm glad I'm getting the word out on Bitcoin. But Bitcoin's my own opinion, and it's subjective because Bitcoin is, you have to accept it for it to be not a scam. Because if you don't accept it, you'll never use it, which means to you it's always a scam. But I don't think it's a scam. It's been legitimized as currency in El Salvador now. It's been around for 11 years. Nobody has had their Bitcoin stolen out of their wallet before unless they compromised it themselves. The price, if you're looking at price action, though it does sometimes go down, the price itself has gone up much more frequently than it has gone down. Bitcoin started in even, I'm not going to go back to the beginning, but 2013, you started at $600. And then it went up to $1,300. And then it dropped again. And then it went up to $18,000. Then it dropped. Then it went up to $65,000. Then it dropped. That's what Bitcoin does. But to me, the fact Bitcoin hasn't been hacked in the 11 years it's been open in the world for people to hack and steal huge values of money, and it still can't be taken. The cryptography that backs Bitcoin is the strongest form of math humans know. I don't think that's a scam. Bitcoiners aren't scamming you. You're buying an asset. You're buying something that has a limited quantity. You are getting something for your money. The value of it comes from its acceptance within society or the demand for it. So Bitcoin isn't a scam, but people commonly misconstrue it as one because it has to have value. They want it to be valuable. They don't want to find out the next day it's worthless. But every item in existence, including your dollars, could be classified under this same train of thought. because one day your dollars could be worthless. Nobody just wants the dollars. They printed a lot of them. Gold could be worthless. The giant asteroid hits. There's a lot of gold now. Anything can become worthless because humans, we as people, are the ones that give it value. We give things value. That's the main thing. And so, no, Bitcoin is not a scam. It's been around for a long time. It's done extremely well. And to people who got in early, they did very well. And I don't spite them at all. Good job. They saw something before it happens. They had the same vision I had in 2017 back in 2013 or 2009. That's what's so cool about Bitcoin, is everybody comes to that same realization. You realize once you have an asset that only has a fixed quantity, that truly has a fixed quantity. They can't recreate more Bitcoin. Once you see that, it is possible to have something that there are only so many of. You then realize there is no need for money printing. There's no need for these inflationary practices. There's no need to collect things to help preserve your wealth. It's just much better for those purposes. Not real money. Bryce says digital currency will never be the future of money because it's not physically tangible. And that's something humans have put immense weight on in terms of value throughout history. Bitcoin will be a niche use case side market where some people make lots of money getting lucky. It's basically gambling, and I have no interest in that sort of instability. So I'm going to start with the things I think you're right on. Bitcoin's not stable. That is correct. Its price for most people is pretty volatile, and it's hard to swallow that volatility. To that, I would say that I would rather have an asset that goes up and down frequently, but on average goes up. And that's been shown over the 11 years in Bitcoin's existence. It's gone up from, I'm going to start from the beginning. It went up from 1 cent to $30,000 today. So it does go up. So over the long haul. And if you bought any point other than basically April of this year, yeah, you've made money. Good for you. But I don't really like thinking of Bitcoin in dollars because of the fact that I just want everything to be Bitcoin. Just skip the dollar. I don't need the dollar. Gambling. Everything in life's a gamble. I mean, literally everything in life. Every decision you make. My decision to make this podcast is a gamble. So I'd rather gamble on something I think is a winner than gamble on something I know is a loser. And I know cash is a loser because of the fact they're just going to print more of it. We've seen it. Niche use case side market where some people make lots of money getting lucky. That one, yeah, it is a niche thing right now, but let's talk about relative amounts of nicheness. The nicheness of Bitcoin, as I may say, it was a lot more niche 10 years ago. There was maybe a few hundred people. Now there's millions of people that use Bitcoin to protect themselves. People know that Bitcoin is the ultimate asset. That's what they want to have because it protects them. It is the ultimate insurance policy. As a side market, yeah, I guess you could define it as a side market because all markets are a side of something. So yeah, cool. And make money by getting lucky. Like I said in the previous section, everybody comes to the same conclusion with Bitcoin. It's when it happens. It's when you look at things and you go, I am not okay with certain things such as inflation. I'm not okay with money printing. I'm not okay with corruption. I'm not okay with the way things are working. I'm not okay with my bank closing 3 days out of the week. I'm not okay with overdraft fees. I'm not okay with minimum balance fees. I'm not okay with these behaviors. I'm not okay with banks getting bailed out. Nobody gets a bailout with Bitcoin because there's only so many Bitcoin. You can't print Bitcoin to get a bailout. So getting lucky, the luckiest thing that can happen is really just discovering what it is. Like discovering what Bitcoin is, going and doing the research, finding out, hearing about it. And that's what I'm hoping to do for everybody, is get their eyes to open up and realize the basically terribleness of some of the things in life that are happening to them and how they're getting taken advantage of and how you can sidestep that whole thing. Let's go to the next thing. Digital currency will never be the future of money because it's not physically tangible. I mean, money in general, especially for the last 10 years, has went to the fact it's not physically tangible. Money now consists of many different payment channels, Venmo, PayPal, and debit, credit cards. There are ACH. Most people don't see cash anymore. They know that they can get cash back for their money, but That's by going to the bank and getting physical dollar bills. And those dollar bills at this point, after 1971, they can't be redeemed for anything. Pre-1971, you could take $35 and go buy an ounce of gold from the United States government. That is no longer true with the Bretton Woods Agreement, where they closed the gold window. So money has evolved into a electronic money. The banks, you have an account that shows you how much you have. You have a Venmo account that shows you how many dollars you have, Cash App, etc. For example, in my situation, I only know how much money I have, not because I count it, but because I see the account values on all of these different services. I get paid via ACH. It shows up in my bank account. I can move it via ACH to another account. You basically can move money around digitally. I then spend it with a debit card. I never see cash anymore. I rarely ever see cash. I get it occasionally as like a tip or a thank you, but that's the most I see cash. And even when I get cash, deep down I know it's not worth anything. I can't get any money. I can't get anything real for it other than the promise that somebody's going to do a service for me for that cash. I can't fall back on buying gold from the government. I can't fall back on the fact that my coins are still silver, because they're not silver anymore. The money has no value other than the promise it represents. And that's where Bitcoin differs from regular money. The promise with Bitcoin is mathematics. It's a promise that it works. It's a promise there's a limited supply. It's a promise that if you own it and you secure it correctly, that you get to keep it. If you spend it, it's gone. You can't get it back unless you buy it back or get it back. It is the ultimate ledger in terms of how money can move from point A to point B and people can transmit value. It is trust. You don't need a bank for Bitcoin. Bitcoin eliminates banks.